News.
Israel prepares for attack as deadline to end violence approaches. Widdicombe under more pressure after senior Tories admit smoking cannabis. And still reeling, the players' verdict on Keegan's shock nation.
From ITN, the ITV Weekend News with Katie Darrow.
Good evening. Israel moved a step closer to all-out conflict tonight as Prime Minister Ehud Barak issued another ultimatum to the Palestinians. With more troops and tanks gathering at the border with Lebanon, Mr. Barak warned he would declare the peace process dead in 24 hours unless violence ended. 3 Israeli soldiers are still being held hostage. From Israel, John Irvine reports.
Israel is preparing for battle on its border with Lebanon. Reserves have been called up following the kidnapping of 3 border guards like these men by Hezbollah guerrillas. Frantic diplomatic efforts are being made to secure their release, but the Israelis are preparing for and have warned of harsh reprisals if the soldiers are not freed. In the occupied territories, although it has been a quieter day, the violence is not over. This afternoon, we filmed these scenes in Ramallah on the West Bank, where yet again Israeli soldiers clashed with Palestinian stone throwers. Over the past week, such cat-and-mouse skirmishes have been a prelude to more serious trouble after dark. That's the sound of the overnight gun battle in Hebron. The Israeli deadline for an end to the trouble is fast approaching. The Prime Minister has warned the Palestinians to stop, or else his army will crack down and finish it. The Israelis are preparing to go on the offensive. If the Palestinians have not put an end to the violence by tomorrow evening, then the Israelis will take the fight to them, using all military means available. And any offensive may well involve more attacks like this. The destruction of 2 apartment blocks on the Gaza Strip. During the past week, Twin Towers, as they were called, were frequently used by Palestinian gunmen. But the buildings have now been reduced to rubble. Inside Israel itself, Jews have taken to the streets to show their anger. This is a mosque being attacked in Tiberias last night. There is fury on both sides. Diplomacy may yet bring the trouble to an end, but if it doesn't, the Israelis believe they have another answer. John Irvine, ITN, Jerusalem.
The Conservative drugs policy is under pressure tonight after 7 shadow cabinet ministers admitted they had smoked cannabis in the past. The Liberal Democrat leader Charles Kennedy joined the debate. He said he backed decriminalisation. The ruling comes within days of Anne Widdicombe's call for zero tolerance of drugs at the party's conference. Here's Harry Smith.
It should have been a moment of triumph, but Anne Widdicombe's crackdown on drugs is turning out to be a political nightmare. First, the embarrassing confusion over whether she had the backing of the shadow cabinet. Now 7 members of that cabinet, Frances Maud, Archie Norman, Lord Strathclyde, Peter Ainsworth, Bernard Jenkin, Oliver Letwin and David Willits admit they smoked cannabis as students.
I was a rather pretentious undergraduate. I smoked a pipe, I had a beard, and I suppose they were taking the mickey, and they put some pot in the tobacco that I was using to put in the pipe, and then sat around and laughed like hyenas.
They all insist their confessions were merely answers to a newspaper poll, but others say they smell the whiff of conspiracy.
This was a warning shot across the bows both of Anne Widdicombe and, I think, of the leader of the party, William Hague. He is the only one who knew about this before she said it. He could have stopped her.
The Liberal Democrat leader widened the debate, saying he favoured decriminalising cannabis.
And if you look at the opinion of senior police officers, the Police Foundation and various others, they themselves want a tolerant, rational debate. We're not getting it. We don't get it from hysterics of the type that Anne Widdicombe was giving us.
But Anne Widdicombe is sticking to her tough line. Although she's been giving interviews, she has issued a statement in which she said this is not a debate about what people did at university, but about drugs which ruin people's lives. And as the reaction to her speech rumbles on, it's clearly also a debate which has moved significantly closer to the centre stage of British politics. Harry Smith, ITN, Westminster.
Two British families have asked a fertility clinic to help them genetically select test tube babies, which could act as donors for their older children. The request comes after the case in America of Adam Nash, who was genetically selected to help his sister, who has a rare bone disease. The clinic says it is considering the applications. The European Union is expected to start lifting sanctions imposed on Yugoslavia during the Kosovo conflict tomorrow. The country's new president, Vojislav Kostunica, speaking on his first full day in office, said Yugoslavia was entering a new era. ITN's Bill Neely reports.
In the hills above Belgrade today, an old dance for a new country. They're still celebrating here. Their new president today enjoying his first full day in office. He was sworn in to the cheers of a country which 3 months ago wouldn't have recognised him in the street. Supporters of the defeated President Milosevic are still trying to work out how it happened. He says his first priority is keeping the country united after a decade of tyranny, the week of revolution.
There was violence, but thanks God that violence was kept under the control, and so because of that I really that we are starting a new era in our political life and in our lives generally. Yes.
So Yugoslavia has a new president, new hope, new spirit. The problem is everything else it has is shattered by 10 years of almost unbroken war, sanctions and defeat. The European Union will lift sanctions tomorrow. Germany has announced money to rebuild what NATO bombs destroyed. People are eager to look beyond the fears of the past.
Fear of chaos, fear of wars, fear of economic crisis.
It was a nightmare for all of us, you see, and it was a tragedy.
Serbs prayed today for peace and an end to tragedy. But this is a country that backed Milosevic's wars for years. Even the church gave its blessing. Now Serbs must learn what was done in their name. The past was a tragedy, but the future here will be painful. Bill Neely, ITN, Belgrade.
Divers are getting ready for a mission to recover the bodies of the sailors who died on the Russian Kursk Marine. The team, which includes specialists from Britain, boarded a rig in Norway which will leave tomorrow for the Barents Sea where the Kursk sank. The operation could take up to